Why hello and welcome to the Georgian Book Club. It's been a long while and I have a couple of people who I have to thank for jumping in and doing videos because I was so incredibly busy that it was impossible to get this book read any sooner. But we finally are here with Henry Fielding's Joseph Andrews. But before we start, remember there is our shop where we have books and writing services. There is also our Redbubble shop where we have over 100 designs. If you would like to support us but you don't want to spend any money, that is totally fine. Like, subscribe, comment and share. Always incredibly useful. So, Joseph Andrews. We finally got to it. And I will say that I had to do something that I very, very rarely do. I think I've only ever done it with Rasselais before, which is I actually had to listen to this as an audiobook on my way to work, on my way home from work, and on the way to the gym and things like that, just to get this thing read. Today I was like double speeding, listening to this book just to get it finished to be able to film. So we've been busy. We have been busy. But Joseph Andrews. Now, you will have seen this book because this book also has Shyamala in it. And we talked about Shyamala quite some time ago, sometime last year. So Joseph Andrews is paired with Shyamala because they are a pair. Shyamala is, if you go back to the video, I talk more fully about it, but Shyamala is a parody of Richardson's Pamela. Joseph Andrews is also having a go at Richardson's Pamela. And so it's doing that by taking Joseph Andrews, who is supposed to be the brother of Pamela and just as virtuous as his sister, and setting him off on an adventure and an adventure that is in some ways mirroring, but in some ways also not mirroring Pamela's situation. So Joseph Andrews is quite different. It is not just, though, a sex swap version of Pamela, which would not really work. In terms of the Pamela-esque part, the book is divided into 4 books. Books 1 and 4 are very much more in the Pamela mode, as in engaged with the assaults on virtue by people of power, whereas books 2 and 3 are, and this is where this book gets rather interesting, is because the complete title of this book is The History of the Adventures of Joseph Andrews and his friend Mr. Abraham Adams, written in imitation of the manner of Cervantes, author of Don Quixote. So, although this book is called Joseph Andrews, and Joseph is the protagonist, an equal part is taken up by Parson Abraham Adams, who is a curate under the Lord Booby. So what Fielding does is he takes some characters from Richardson, but on the whole, most of them are not. To start out the book, Joseph Andrews is a boy in the service of a Squire Booby. Now, Squire Booby, you'll remember, Booby is the name of the gentleman in Shyamala. So instead of him being Mr. B, as he is in Pamela, Fielding keeps the booby quality to basically signaling to the reader immediately, oh, this is a comedy, and this is in the same vein as Shyamala. This is not necessarily to be read straight and instructively, as Pamela is meant to be read straight and instructively. But young Joseph turns out to be very gifted with horses, and he works for Lord Booby, who is the uncle of Mr. B, Pamela's Mr. B. Now, when he is 17, he is so handsome, so lovely of face, so fine a singer, that Lady Booby decides she will have him as her footman. And between the ages of 17 and 21, he resides in the house as Lady Booby's footman. She takes him to London, where he is incapable of being corrupted by the other young rakes of the in service around. He is dressed as a fashionable servant. He does go to the theatre, but he can't really be prevailed upon to be whoring and gaming and drinking and doing all the other things that the servants and their betters are doing in London. All the unvirtuous behaviour. Joseph is instead a very modest, very shy young man who is not interested in being corrupted by the town. Now, while they're in town, Lord Booby dies suddenly, leaving Lady Booby a widow, which is an opening that she needs to proposition her young footman, which he neither fully understands, and when he is fully appraised of what she is asking of him, he really is not interested in at all, which she finds quite shocking. He is also propositioned by Mrs. Slipshod, the lady's maid, who is equally unimpressed at this young man being virtuous, because they really don't believe that any young man could possibly be so. Joseph, then having earned the ire of the two most powerful women in the household, discovers himself turned out, partly by virtue of the lady of the house being terribly embarrassed at having propositioned her footman, and partly on the basis of Mrs. Slipshod being deeply insulted that he turned her down, in spite of the fact that she had been flattering him and working him for quite some time, and felt that all that effort was wasted and she could have spent it on somebody who may not have been so pretty, but may very well have been a great deal more receptive. And so he finds himself turned out. Having been turned out, he then immediately travels back to the country estate. He starts walking back to the country estate because, which he did not wish to tell anyone, he has a fiancée, a girlfriend among the servants who have been at the Booby estate. This is Fanny, and he sets out immediately to see her. He's very disappointed at being very upset and confused at what he has done to get turned out, but his immediate thought is to go to his beloved, and they have been separated for quite some time. They send word to each other because Fanny cannot read or write, but they haven't actually seen or communicated directly with one another for quite some time, and he is very eager to go and see her. On the road, he gets robbed. He gets robbed and beaten and left for dead and naked in a ditch. So, poor Joseph Andrews, he is then picked up by a coach and taken to an inn. This is all part of the first book. Taken to an inn where the coach is stopping off, where he meets up with Parson Adams. Now, Parson Adams, he knows from the Booby estate, and Parson Adams is heading to London to sell his sermons. He believes that booksellers would absolutely, he needs some money, and he's trying to sell his sermons to the booksellers. Now, various things occur, which ends up with a case of Parson Adams actually doesn't have the sermons on him, which he thought he had, because his wife decided that his saddlebag would be better filled with clean shirts than with a whole collection of manuscript sermons. So Parson Adams decides to accompany Joseph back to the Booby estate. Books 2 and 3 are really the entire journey. At the end of book 2, Parson Adams rescues Fanny, who is also on the road, having heard that Joseph was injured. She left where she was. She left the cow that she was milking and set off on the road to find her boyfriend. So Parson Adams rescues her, and then all three set off back to the Booby estate, having myriad adventures along the way. When they get back to the estate, it is a case that Lady Booby is opposed to Fanny and Joseph marrying, partly because she would like to have Joseph for herself. Mr. Booby and Pamela come down to visit, and this elevates Joseph's standing. He is no longer a turned out servant, but a member of, as Mr. Booby sees it, a member of the family, because he is his wife's brother. Pamela, it turns out, has had her head well and truly turned by fortune. And when Joseph complains because Mr. Booby doesn't believe that Fanny is an appropriate wife for one of his relations, Joseph is quite shocked when Pamela counsels him to give her up. This is something that Joseph will absolutely not do. So Joseph and Fanny discover themselves fairly assailed on all sides from a amorous nobleman or gentleman who wishes to have Fanny, who is not the only one. There is Lady Booby, who would like Joseph, and there is Mr. Booby and Pamela, who are now counselling Joseph not to continue his relationship and his promises towards a girl from the dairy of unknown origins. So this is all solved when it is discovered that Joseph is actually the son of a man of quality who was stolen and who was substituted for another person's child. that of Mr. Andrews. So Mr. Andrews didn't have a son and a daughter, but 2 daughters. The daughter is discovered at the end is Fanny, which sets them into a bit of a quandary, because until Joseph's parentage is discovered, they are given the terrible thought that they may actually be brother and sister, which doesn't really do for them because they're terribly in love and want to marry. But this is all cleared away when it is discovered that Joseph is in fact the son of a man that they met on the road, whose eldest son had been stolen away from him. Now, this is the basic story. It's a picaresque story. There are dozens of little vignettes and adventures and different sorts of things. And, you know, I mean, if I had there were 2 ways that I could have approached reading this. One was the approach that I took, which was audiobook the thing and get it read that way. The other approach would be to, you know, pick and choose the bits that you read, because it is written like that. It is, in some respects, a picaresque novel. So, you know, if you miss out on the story of Leonora, the jilted bride, you're not going to lose much. If you miss out on a couple of the tavern brawls, you're not going to miss much. But if you miss out on the gentleman who gives his history across quite a big hunk of the story, then you would miss something. So it is not so very loosely constructed as a pure picaresque. It is constructed, there is cause and effect. There is not a great deal of character growth that you expect from a more modern narrative. Joseph Andrews is a virtuous young man at the beginning. He's a virtuous young man at the end. The only difference is his circumstances have changed. He is now retired to the country with a small estate, a dairy farm, and his first child on the way with Fanny. That is the difference. Joseph in his self is no different from the end to the beginning, or from the beginning to the end. So it's not, and that stands for any of the characters. It is not a case that this is a narrative with great character development. This is, on the other hand, a parody, or it's a satire of contemporary manners and morals. It is a satire of Pamela again, but not in the way that you would think. It's not, you know, actively blow for blow creating a parody of Pamela. He's already done that. He did that with Shamala, and it's very broad and it's very funny. Joseph is attacking Pamela in the same way that Shamala attacks Pamela, in that Joseph is given ample opportunity to betray his love. He is given ample opportunity to elevate himself through illicit love affairs. He is, and it is seen through the adventures of many of the people that they encounter, that to do so, in spite of the fact that this goes very much against Joseph's nature, is not seen as being something ill of the times, or it is seen as one of the great ills of the times. The fact that this is not to be condemned. This is commonplace. This using of love, which should be this great pure passion for self-advancement, for lust, for greed, for whatever particular reason that we have, that various different characters have. And we see a lot of bad marriages that were begun as a mercenary engagement. Husbands and wives who despise one another, which includes Lord and Lady Booby, who do not like one another, and thus Lady Booby's hypocrisy at lamenting her husband, who she would have wished dead a dozen times a day. So there is, and why is she lamenting her husband? For form's sake, for the sake of society, for the sake of her image, not because she actually laments her husband, because in secret she is instantly, the moment she's free of him, within about 6 days of him being dead, she's like, okay, that's enough mourning. I'm going to make moves on my 21-year-old footman. So Joseph is a pure creature in a world of corruption, and Fielding sees Pamela as part of that corruption, which is why at the end we see Pamela, who Joseph has been using as his great touchstone of virtue. This, if my sister can preserve her virtue, then so can I. He is shocked to see her counsel him, give up this girl. Give her up. So Fielding is having a go at what Richardson was saying. But he's doing a lot of other things too. Because Fielding is an Augustan. And he is very, very much in the Scribalian mode. And this is a book that is also playing with the concept of the epic and with the Iliad and the classics. So that is where Parson Adams comes in. Now, Parson Adams is also our Don Quixote character. Parson Adams is a man of the cloth. He is a man of venerable reputation, a husband with 6 children, a man who is more comfortable with the texts of the ancients than he is with anything of the modern world. He is a gullible man of great simplicity who takes things at face value and who does not take enough care of the material qualities of the world that keep life together. So therefore, when Joseph, although he is greatly grateful of having his friend to accompany him, the fact that Parson Adams frequently has not enough money to pay for things, Joseph, having been robbed of his wages, has no money at all, not even his own clothes to wear. Parson Adams is not exactly a great protector of either of these poor individuals, Fanny and Joseph, because Parson Adams, his head's in the cloud. He misunderstands people. He sees things as, he takes account of position and rank, and doesn't really fully always inquire into the character of people, which is how he ends up being very, very much abused and the butt of practical jokes at a squire's house, which ends up with him being dunked in a barrel of water. Also, the squire has designs on Fanny, which results in a battle in a tavern until she is fortunately rescued by another member of the Booby household as Lady Booby is coming home from London. gets frequently lost. He forgets his horse. There are so many. The fact that he even forgets his manuscripts. He doesn't bring his manuscripts with him on the way to London. He is an absent-minded creature. He is not. He bears no ill will to people, but he is frequently relying on the kindness of strangers to get them out of scrapes. So he is the Don Quixote character, and he has Joseph and Fanny trundling after him, hoping for his protection, but also discovering that they may have put their faith in perhaps someone who was more practical, would be more use. Because it turns out that the highways and byways of England of the 18th century are a very dangerous place to be. There are numerous adventures that they have, some at inns, some on their way to inns, some all in circuitous routes. And Fielding was also playing with the concept of the epic. So he is creating, or he is intending to create, and you see this throughout, the fact that Parson Adams is so thoroughly inculcated in the classics is not an accident. It is part of his status. Yes, it is part of something he is quite proud of, his learning, but at the same time, it is also constant references to these epics are mirrored against the pettiness and the smallness of the modern world. Whereas great heroes of the epics fight monsters and engage with terrors and have to be wily towards gods. In this modern world, you have to attempt to get out of paying a tavern bill, or throw yourself on the mercy of strangers and hope that they are not going to cheat you, or you fight over small sums of money, or more seriously, we see the fighting over possession of a woman, and that, which is what causes some of the most violent fights in it. Parson Adams' cudgeling of the man who attempts to attack Fanny in the night, having walked along with her and gained her trust, he then attempts to assault her. And Parson Adams rescues her. The squire who's responsible for the dunking of Parson Adams is likewise so taken by Fanny and her beauty that he wishes to abscond with her. He wishes to take her and debauch her. And we are never left in, whereas for Joseph, the biggest danger he can face is to be beaten and murdered and robbed, the biggest danger Fanny can face is to be debauched and have her reputation destroyed. And we see frequent stories of this happening, of women whose reputations have been destroyed and are now left in a pitiful state. So the jilted lover who managed to snare herself a good fiancé and then got herself into a situation where another one came along who had more money and she favoured him, and then her original fiancé goes and wounds him in a duel when he discovers that his girlfriend, his fiancé, in fact, is unfaithful. And she throws her whole lot in with the new man, only for him to not like the fact that her father has no intention of settling any money on her, leaving her, instead of with two potential lovers, with none. And so she is the jilted woman. Although she is not not materially hurt by this, as in she has still got somewhere to live, she is still a lady of status. She has in some ways lost her status. She has no social status, and there is not a man who will go near her for marriage, which means that she will over time rapidly lose status as an unmarried, an unmarriageable woman, because she now has a reputation for her extraordinary inconstancy. We see that for women, maintaining their virtue and managing to secure a good marriage is really their only security. Fanny is only safe when she is with Parson Adams and Joseph. Joseph is, because he is virtuous, because he is our hero, she is safe with him because of that. She is safe from her. She is safe because of his virtue. Her virtue is safe. But it is not safe from other people. It is a mock heroic. And that is where Joseph's virtue comes in. Joseph is spoken of being strong, of being virtuous, of being good. And that these qualities we see are not a defense against the world that is corrupt and is false and doesn't really care if you're strong so long as you've got money. The final attempted assault on Fanny comes from a man who's less than 5 feet tall and is a spindly little creature. This is not a world where the strength and the virtue is rewarded as it is in antiquity. In antiquity, Joseph would be the hero, he would be the Achilles, he would be the Hector, he would be Odysseus, he would be rewarded with all the things because of his virtue, because he is the hero, and he would be recognized as such in that world. Now, Fielding does give us that happy ending because this is a comic heroic epic. And he frequently uses allusions to Homer because Homer is supposed to have composed a comic epic that was the equivalent of the Iliad and the Odyssey that has been lost to antiquity. And this is Fielding's updated, modernized prose poem. And he means poem in terms of work of fiction. A poem is a work of imagination in the classical understanding. So he is, even though this is prose and even though this is a novel, it is still something slightly different. It is still hearkening back to that ancient world. So our hero and our heroine are reunited, are married, are given their happy ever after. And they're given their happy ever after because that is the nature of comedy. Because we can't possibly have a tragic ending in the comedy, but we also see the shortcomings of the time, that there is no place for heroes anymore. There are no heroes anymore. There is just barroom scuffles and sordid affairs, no grand passions. Joseph is as much out of the world that he exists in, as Parson Adams, because no one of even his now elevated status is as virtuous, is as good, as is kind, and is as deserving of their good fortune as Joseph, our mock hero. So it's a really funny book. It is a funny book. It discusses also a lot on book selling, which is a quality of Henry Fielding's work. There's a chapter on chapters. There is the concept that this is now not the document of the ancient world, this high art. This is now a commercial thing, a thing to be consumed by readers. And he never loses sight of that fact. In fact, he underlines that, which is in itself part of the corruption of the modern age. But at the same time, it is very much bringing into awareness, this is a constructed narrative. I am thinking about this and I am creating a narrative, which is again poking at Pamela, which is a pretend at. This is all actually happening. This is all documentary evidence. This is an epistolatory novel. This doesn't pretend to be an epistolatory novel. There are a couple of letters, but this is from the author gathering this story from witnesses to and occasionally coming unstuck with his inability to fully render what is happening or to fully remember elements of narrative that he wishes to use. So we have a book that is being very frank about what it is there for. It is there to be sold, to be entertained, to be consumed, and to make the author money. He is never pretending not to. And part of that is reinforced through how much this book talks about money, about food, about eating, about the necessity of having that thing that keeps everyone together in the modern world, which is money, making sure you've got money to provide for those necessities. Joseph initially has enough money to provide for his journey home until he is robbed of it. People are talking about money all the time. When a thief is taken, there is great discussion about the reward and how much people should expect of the reward and how much somebody is owed. It is very frank about that, which I think is another way that it is having a dig at Pamela, who is pretending at her, in the eyes of Fielding, is pretending at her virtuousness in order to raise her market value for her marriage that he sees as very avaricious towards Mr. B. We are seeing that money is an essential. Money is an essential for the characters in the novel. Money is also an essential for the author, who discusses it frankly in terms of book selling as a trade and as a mercantile venture. So, and books as something that is consumed. So it is a very interesting book. I will say, listening to it, because that was what I was doing, listening to it, was that it put me very much in mind of Tom Jones. Joseph is kind of like Tom's younger brother. In this whole video, I keep having to remember to call him Joseph and not Tom. He is very similar. His picaresque journey is very similar to Tom's. His adventures are very similar to Tom's, but unlike Joseph, Tom is a lot more lusty. very much more lusty. But it is very similar in some respects to Tom Jones. I would suggest because of that you read this first. This is the first book. This was written first, then read Tom Jones. I am going to reread Tom Jones and redo that video because I like Fielding and I would like to reread Tom Jones, but I'm not going to say when I'm going to do that because it took me forever to read this one, and this is only 300 pages. Tom Jones is like 500, and 500 pages of Fielding take some time to read. Do recommend it. Do read it. It is good. You don't necessarily need to read Pamela to understand it. You don't have to read it as in that straight, oh, this is an attack on Pamela. If you've never read Pamela, I've never read Pamela. I don't like Richardson. I find him dull. I find him preachy. So you don't have to read Pamela to appreciate this. There is plenty in it to appreciate on its own merits without putting it up against the other work that sort of inspired it. But yes, have a look at it. It is fun. It is a picaresque romp through the highways and byways of 18th century England. So yeah, I don't know what I will be bringing next. I'm not going to announce it in advance because that's how we got ourselves in trouble with this, and I don't want to owe her Infernal Majesty again. I know she was quite happy to do it, but I am not owing her Infernal Majesty again. I will be in so much trouble if I do that. So anyway, I hope that you enjoy this, and I will be back again later with another book from the 18th century. So until then, goodbye. If you would like to support this channel, come across to the Black Cockie Press website, www.blackcockiepress.com.au, where you will find books and other writing services to help with your writing.